to the original creator who has it his own archive, who knows how the universe operates and how it should be and how it shouldn't be. Believe it or not, George Lucas did have a vision for Episode 7, but eventually left the idea for I don't remember, I should say, what reason. But originally, when he created A New Hope, he wanted to create 3 distinct trilogies. Which one reason why he might have abandoned it is probably because of the EU. Is he allowed people to publish comic books and publish other things that took place, unless there's some sort of stipulation with the timeline to say like, oh, well, leave a gap in the timeline so that I can still make the movies that lead into this stuff. I mean, you know, they did that with other stuff too, I'm pretty sure. I would say it's safe to assume, you know, like Old Republic came out, and all this other stuff. It might have come out before, might have come out after. I want to say it came out after Phantom Menace, but still. You know, it's very easy to say, okay, you need to make sure that these events actually take place after a certain point, because he distinctively said that he wanted the movies trilogy to actually take place in a certain time increment. I think it was like 30 or 20 years. Which is actually about right when you look at it. Regardless of the jump in age and the fact that I don't think we got any exposition other than we might have gotten it in comics and books and other sort of things that I haven't looked into and read yet, within both canon continuities. But ultimately we go from Little Annie to Hayden Christensen, which another thing that I complain about is not Hayden Christensen. A lot of people do. They're like, oh, he portrayed a poor Anakin Skywalker. He did shitty and it ended up ruining his career. Which is fucking stupid, because honestly, and I have seen this in another fan video that someone uploaded to YouTube, is that he played a very good Anakin Skywalker. He is a slave. There's a reason why the Jedi Council did not want to bring him into the Order, and why they have a rule of age limit to do so. It's because they do form attachments. Attachments is forbidden because of the fact that emotions will cloud your judgment, and you're supposed to be basically mind over matter as a Jedi. You're supposed to be balanced. You're supposed to have emotional control. So having emotions is not forbidden. It's letting them overthrow and overtake you with your decision making and your choices of person. And as Anakin was like 8 or 9 years old, really, Callie? Why are you sitting on me? Stop. Cat, you're on my cord. There. Have headphones in. So, ultimately, you know, Anakin was like 8 or 9 years old, which he had already formed attachments to a lot of things, emotionally, positive and negative. She's like nudging my phone. You know, he formed love and care and compassion and all these things for his friends, maybe. But let's be honest, we do give up friends all the time in life. You know, you're in elementary school, or you move, or you go in high school. You know, relationships, they come and they go as friends and as people in general. But he had his mom, he had all these things that he was resenting the Order for over the years, because they would not allow him to do. You know, they wouldn't allow him. They're like, oh, you focus too much on combat, and that's a trait of a Sith or a Darksider or whatever. It's having that kind of, you know, passion. Maybe he just wants to hone his skills. I mean, from my understanding, there are Jedi who do that. Maybe that line and that quote, because I saw it from a comic book, and I think it's a new canon comic book, which might be why. But I believe in the original Legends, there was a class of Jedi, like I think it was the Guardians or something. There was a particular type of Jedi that did, you know, focus more on lightsaber combat versus force training because of whatever reason. Which is good to have a sense of balance. You can't have people who study both aspects equally, because you need to have one who is a specialist. You have to have someone who knows something more than the next. It's kind of boring when you think about it, you know. Anyways, though, you know, basically we do have that gap between episode 1 and episode 2, and a lot of people bash Hayden Christensen for his performance, but, you know, he didn't have a father. He just had his mother. He was a slave. You know, he probably didn't spend much time with his mom. You know, as a slave, even from our own history, we can assume what he went through. I mean, hell, even in the movie, they state that he has some sort of transmitter or something located in some anonymous part of his body, like somewhere random, who he doesn't know about. And he, as a child, as an inventor, I mean, hell, he created C-3PO out of scraps. You know, he created 3PO entirely. He created his own pod out of secret. You know, he was just gathering stuff. You know, he was kind of a junker in a way. Which is funny because, you know, junker, you know, they would probably be like a scavenger. And they use the term junker in Guardians of the Galaxy, which is also owned by Disney. But, you know, people complain that Hayden Christensen is a horrible... He portrays him very well. I don't see what the problem is. I guess I'm just mentally exhausting myself on this. I'll jump on the whole Hayden Christensen being a good actor and a good portrayer of Anakin Skywalker on another day, I guess, once I edit things down. That way I have more room on my phone because I don't have a computer to do this. Wouldn't that be nice? So, Star Wars The Force Awakens, there are Force abilities that have never been shown in Star Wars, which does bother me. And it really pulls me out of it every time I watch it, which is probably one reason why I'm not a fan, is I don't like being pulled out of a movie. I am not a fan of pausing a movie, and when I do, I actually jump the scene backwards, so that I can be back in that moment entirely. What? I'm not joking, my cat is fat. Like, she is a glutton like no tomorrow. Her bowl, we feed her, she runs to the bowl the minute she knows that we're over there. We're in the kitchen, she runs over there because she knows we have food. You know, if I set something down, stop! Well, get off me. Sorry, she's really annoying. I'm an animal lover, so maybe that's my reason, is I love her by default. But she will eat everything until, like... Okay, I'm going to show you this really quick. Alright. You see that? See? She ran right over because I'm in here. I'm going to pull up just to make sure, since I can't tell what you can see. Okay, you can't see it at all. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Okay, see, it's a Tupperware, has this little, you know, nudge thing on the bottom. When that rim gets hit, meaning, Callie! Sorry, I'm just really irritated, especially with the fact she just, like, ran into me. I have poor balance as it is. But, the minute that, no matter how much food we put in there, she will leave barely anything in that rim, so that there's scraps left in it. And at that point, she will complain because she ate all of her food in one sitting, that she wants more, like she always has to eat. I think I might have stated this in another video, and in case that I didn't, there was last week, I'm sitting in my chair that you always see me sitting in, and she's over here, you know, over here, staring out the window like she always does. Runs over, eats, and runs back, or walks back, or whatever. And within 2 to 5 minutes, not even joking, it was like, literally, she looked out the window for maybe 2 minutes, and then walks back and eats more. So my cat is legitimately a gluttony fat. So, I'm basically going to start just rambling because there was another thing that I was supposed to talk about, but I got on my Star Wars rant because I'm playing Resident Evil while listening to Star Wars videos. My complaint that I have, being that I love Resident Evil, I love timelines, and stuff like that. I question if I was an archivist in a past life because it kind of shows. But I've played Resident Evil 4, 5, 6. I've played a few others, but in terms of the numbers, in terms of the number games, I played those ones. Which people complain about Resident Evil 4 because it was such the hardcore original trilogy ones that came out for PlayStation 1. You know, it was horror-based, versus this one was kind of adventure-based. and they changed the view. It was a fixed third-person camera view. I kind of like that because I do like first-person shooters. I do like first-person view, but I do like knowing there's a character. I like, mythos, I guess. I like having, some sort of continuity, like I said. But my problem is that 4, 5, and 6, 7 is supposed to be coming out soon, which actually, from what I've seen, jumps to first-person view, which is a drastic take from the typical Resident Evil stuff. I know there's like 1 or 2, like Umbrella Chronicles for the Wii. That was a first-person, almost arcade shooter game, but still, you at least had characters in that. That's one reason why I'm not a fan of some of this stuff, like Call of Duty. You're just a soldier. You're a generic soldier. There's not much of a character. There's just a story that you're playing. At least that's how I feel about it. I've played Modern Warfare 3, and I think you play as like 3 different characters, but there's nothing there. It's like I feel like I'm just a guy shooting a gun. I can't tell the difference between the character that I'm playing, which I liked having characters. But what I don't like about Resident Evil, as much as I love it with a passion, from what my complaint that is festering in me is chainsaws. Resident Evil 4 had like 3, 4 different types of chainsaw sub-bosses, bad guy people. You had Dr. Salvador, who showed up, which, this is what I don't understand, okay? Don't give your character a distinct personality name, like a last name. Dr. Salvador, that's a last name. We don't know his first name. I haven't looked up the wiki for him, but a lot of wikis for the bad guys are very generic. They're like, yeah, this guy created by the C virus, and yeah, he was based on a human. I don't understand how some of these C virus from Resident Evil 6 are human based, but I guess the Cocoon Metamorphosis, it makes sense somehow. I just wish that there was more to it. Like, honestly, I wish each character had its own development. I love character development. Dr. Salvador, I think we see, which I know it's kind of a fun thing for the gameplay itself, and I love gameplay stuff like this for the sake of I'm a gamer, so for the sake of it's a game, it's fun, it's cool. But at the same time, for sake of continuity, which, obviously I have a different part of me that loves continuity, gamer side than storyteller side, different, whatever. Dr. Salvador should be one guy. And I think he comes back at least 2 or 3 times. But we have the Chainsaw Sisters, which I don't know if they have any distinct names. I just know that fans, or at least I call them, me and my buddy who introduced me to the franchise, way back when I was in middle school, he had Resident Evil 4, and I was like, oh my god. People complain that it, went astray from the franchise, which I don't understand, because the whole point on Resident Evil is it is the horror, it is basically the pioneer and foundation of the, what is it called? Horror. It's like a horror movie that you can interact with. It is one of the pioneers in horror-based video games. A lot of the things that go on in a horror movie, like even subgenres like psychological horror, gore horror, all these, gore fest or whatever, jump scare, all these subgenres, which we'll get into jump scare on another day, because god, does jump scare piss me off.